Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and the new expansion for Hearthstone, Rise of the Shadows, is almost upon us, so we can actually look at the cards and start to get an idea of what might change and what might be new and what might be interesting. So to see it, you need to go into crafting mode in your collection, and then click your selector here to see the Rise of the Shadows expansion, and then click include uncraftable cards, because guess what, they're not released yet, so they can't be crafted. Last time we looked at the rogue, which means we just have the shaman, the warlock, and the warrior, and the neutral cards, which will be the longest episode to look at. But we're in the home stretch, at least at this point. So the first card we have is a 0 mana spell called Mutate. Transform a friendly minion into a random one that costs 1 more. This seems like there was already an Echo card that did this, and a hero replacement hero ability that did this. So it seems like they're kind of tripling down on just update a card, just transform it into something slightly more expensive, slightly better. Now there is some weirdness, unless they've done something new here, where there are 12 mana and 11 mana cards, and 13 mana I think, but I think when you hit 15 mana, I don't think that there's a 16 mana, a 17 mana, or an 18 mana card. But there is like a 20 mana card, and so there's no way to actually mutate into that 20 mana card unless they've started to bridge that gap, which would be fine. If somebody's trying that hard to get that one specific legendary card, they probably deserve it. The reason why this card would work well with the Shaman, is simply because you play Bloodlust and it gives all of your minions like +3 attack for that turn, and if you just have a bunch of minions, that's a 1-turn kill usually. So just slowly improving. For 0 mana, that's fine. Like, I can't see any reason why that would be bad. Next we have a 1 mana 2 attack 1 health merlok type minion called the sludge slurper. This is the first merlok we've seen in the expansion, and it's been probably 4 or 5 expansions since we've seen any new merloks, so it was getting a little dangerous to the point where we were going to run out of merloks, but we kind of have plenty of them, and it's just that the really good ones are in wild and not playable in standard. So I wouldn't be upset if there was a legendary merlok added in this expansion that really synergized with the others and made winning with merloks even easier. But on the other hand, it's already pretty easy to win with merloks if you're playing low level, so they don't really need the help. The sludge slurper has a battle cry: add a lackey to your hand, and overload 1. Overload is a shaman specific ability that locks one of your mana crystals, so you can't use it the next turn. So if you play this on the first turn, you will only have 1 mana on your second turn that you can use instead of 2. So that is the trade-off. Adding a lackey will summon a, I believe, 1 mana 1 attack 1 health minion. It won't summon it, it will put it in your hand, and those lackeys will have some random abilities. So this might be an early game first turn concept if you're playing half Murlocs and half Rise of the Shadows expansion cards. Otherwise, you might not want to play this if you're playing a purely Murloc deck, and you might play this if you're playing an Overload deck. I'm not sure an Overload deck would actually win the game for you though. They didn't really expand on Overload enough so far for it to make sense. Next we have a 2 mana spell called Soul of the Merlok. Give your minions Death Rattle, summon a 1/1 Merlok. This card is excellent. It's a common card too. This is amazingly good because there is a Merlok card that gains like a buff for every Merlok summoned. So you could potentially have that one Merlok on the field, 6 other Merloks on the field, play this, attack something with taunt or whatever, just attack enemy minions with those 6 Merlok minions, and kill your opponent's minions with the 6 attacks, summon 6 more 1/1 Merloks, and for every summon buff up that one guy. And that easily could be close to a one turn kill, if not a 1 turn kill, and we'll show off that Merlok later. In fact, it seems like we're going to get quite a few Merloks. This may be 100% Merlok centric in this expansion. Well, that's fine by me, I guess. That might also be canonically and storyline based accurate, but I don't know anything about the World of Warcraft story in this game. People have suggested watching a YouTube channel called Lore of the Cards or something to explain it all, and it just goes on too long, and I just can't care enough. This is a 2 mana, 2 attack, 3 health Merlok called Underbelly Angler. After you play a Merlok, add a random Merlok to your hand. This is excellent. This is going to skyrocket Merlok decks when these cards come out. This is going to make Merlok decks win even more than they do usually, and that'll be great for new players too, because Merloks are pretty easy, because all you have to do is know the order to play Merloks in and play a bunch of Merloks. That's all you gotta do. Next we have a 2 mana spell called Witch's Brew, which is an epic rarity. Restores 4 health, and it's repeatable this turn, which is weird because that would have been called Echo. So it seems like what they've decided is to not use the phrase Echo anymore. They just introduced the phrase Echo, I think, in the last expansion, and it seems like they've decided to change it to just repeatable this turn, which, you know, that probably makes more sense than saying Echo, because Echo doesn't really mean anything, and they're always trying to make the explanations of effects on cards as understandable as possible at a quick glance. So yeah, it makes sense, but it is weird to do a about face. So that probably means anything that says Echo will be rewritten to say repeatable this turn eventually. Next we have a 4 mana 4 attack 4 health Merlok class minion called Scargill. He's a legendary minion, which means you can only have one in your deck. All the epics and rares and commons you can have 2, and legendaries cost the most dust to craft, and it gets cheaper as it goes down. So here we have a legendary. Your Murlocs cost 1 mana. Probably not that good of a Merlok, frankly. Most Merlocs cost 1 anyways, so I don't understand the reason for that. Now, it is worth pointing out that the adventure, the quest for the Shaman is to play a bunch of Merlocs, and then you'll get a 5 mana Merlok that will then fill your hand with a bunch more Merlocs. So it's just like Merlocs on top of Merlocs on top of Merlocs. I suppose if you were going to reduce the cost of the 5 mana Merlok that you get from finishing the quest to 1 mana, that would help a little. But it is generally probably not worth playing this card. But it does seem like all we're going to see is Merlocs. Next we see a 5 mana spell called Hagath Scheme. Deal 1 damage to all minions. Upgrade each turn. So the schemes are supposed to be a class of magic spells, although they're not really going to make classes or label them as classes. But basically, if it has scheme in the name, it will upgrade each turn. You get this on the first draw, and potentially by the 5th turn it will do 6 damage to all minions. Yeah, that's kind of good, but kind of not. That's really, really expensive for what it's doing. And yeah, if you drew this card on the 5th turn, for instance, then it would only do 1 damage to all minions for 5 mana. That would be crazy to play at that point. So I don't like Hagath's scheme. The other schemes seem like they kind of made sense, but maybe I need to go back and rerun the numbers because they may not actually make sense in most instances when you run the odds against it. Next we have a 5 mana, 4 attack, 4 health minion called the Dimmick Morpher. He's not a merlok, he's an epic rarity minion. He has a battle cry to transform into a 4/4 copy of a different minion in your deck. That might work if you just had some other minion in your deck that had a special ability or effect that really needed to be on the field. But I can't really think that that would be worth it. That seems like that would be too dangerous to play this. So that's probably not that good of a card either. All the low mana cards so far have been pretty good, and once you hit the 4 mana cards, it's like, nah, not as good as you think. Next we have a 7 mana, 5 attack, 5 health minion called the Swamp Queenhagatha. It's a legendary minion. Battle cry, add a 5/5 horror to your hand, teach it 2 Shaman spells. So I assume that's adding a 5/5 minion that probably costs 5 mana to your hand, and then you're giving it 2 spells, so you'll probably be given an offer of 3 spells. You pick one, then you're given an offer of 3 spells, and you pick another one, and then when you play that I assume 5 mana 5/5 minion, it casts those spells also. Is that good? Not really, because you're effectively spending 12 mana for a 10/10 minion and casting 2 spells. I guess maybe casting 2 spells might be worth those other 2 mana. Maybe not. It's pretty random though, and you have to go through a lot of steps. And next we have a 5 mana, 4 attack, 8 health elemental class minion called the Walking Fountain. This is the first elemental I believe we've seen in the expansion, so that's a little weird. We could probably do with a couple more elementals, and it's weird that it's a well, I guess it's not that weird that it's a Shaman elemental. There are other elementals that are Shaman specific. This one has Lifesteal, Rush, and Wind Fury. So you play this on the 8th turn, it can attack a minion and do 4 damage, and because of Lifesteal, it will heal 4 damage for health of your hero. Because it has Wind Fury, you could then attack again another minion in that first turn and do another 4 damage and heal another 4. So effectively, because of Wind Fury, makes this an 8/8. Rush is helpful, Lifesteal is helpful. There might even be some synergy with elemental cards that would make this helpful, but you would definitely be playing some unique Shaman cards to specifically want that in your deck. Let's just look at all the standard cards. In comparison, you could have Charge, which could attack the enemy heroes, and Divine Shield and Taunt and Wind Fury for Alakar, the Wind Lord, and he's also an elemental, so you have that. Here is Hagath the Witch, the hero replacement. That doesn't do anything. Here's the quest. Transform your minions into legendary minions. No, that's not a quest. That's just a legendary spell thing. Snow Fury Giant is 11 mana. Let's see. Summon a 1 copy of an original of a friend. This would be for an overload deck because it upgrades when you overload. What does this one do? Here, this one will transform a friendly minion. So you use this hero replacement Thrall Deathseeker card to transmute and transform minions. Bloodlust is still one of the best cards to play for this. Hex is still good if you're going to play Overload. And the Overload Elemental deck might make sense. Looking for the hero, the quest, so that would be a 1 mana card, wouldn't it? We probably will see some more Merlok cards in the neutral decks, so that will make more sense. Okay. So if you have Unite the Merloks, which is a 1 mana quest, then you have to summon 10 Merloks, which some of the new cards added would make that easier. And then you get Megafin, which is a 5 mana Merlok. You could use that new card to reduce it down to a 1 mana Merlok, and that would work just fine. But where is the other 1 mana Merlok? I believe it's here, and probably kind of hard to find outside of it. Not this one. And I know I definitely have it. Here it is. So Merlok Tidecaller is kind of the first Merlok you always want on the field if you're playing Merloks. Whenever you summon a Merlok, gain +1 attack. So being able to play a bunch of Merloks is helpful, but probably not as helpful as you would think. Is it to let me rephrase that. It's probably not super helpful to reduce the cost of Merloks down to 1, because sure, this one has charge and is 2, so it would go to 1, and this one is 3 and it would go to 1. That would reduce the cost a little bit, but the most expensive actual Merlok in the neutral set is only 4. Anyways, this is treated as everything, so it technically is a Merlok also, and it's a pretty good card. So if you want this for any reason, if you're ever going to play a elemental mech deck, demon deck, Merlok deck, dragon deck, beast deck, pirate deck, or totem deck, make Nightmare Amalgam. Make 2 copies if you have the dust. It would cost you 400 dust for 1, so 800 for 2, but not a bad thing for a new player. But yeah, most expensive Merlok here would still be 4 mana, and there's a couple of Paladin Merlok cards. I think Paladin Merlok has kind of fallen apart. That being said, you could do a pretty decent Merlok deck for any hero class if you just don't have the cards to succeed otherwise. So I always recommend to new players, if in doubt, play Merlok. Also wanted to show off the Rogue quest in the last recording and I forgot to do it. The Caverns Below is a quest to play 5 minions of the same minion, same name, and it gives you Crystal Core, which gives all of your minions going forward 5 attack and 5 health. That works pretty well with the new card here that is choose a minion, shuffle 1 copy of it into your deck, upgrade each turn. So if you have to play a bunch of cards with the same name, very cheap, very easy to do that with Togwaggle Scheme. Anyways though, that's going to be it for the Shaman cards. We have 2 more hero classes and then the neutral to go. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, There's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.